Hello and welcome to the Biological Resources Information Program for the Big Creek Bridge Chloride Extraction Project. This training is provided by Alluvian Biological Consulting. Now this training has four broad objectives. Hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll be familiar with all four of these points. First, we're going to cover the definition and implications of take. Then we'll move on to your responsibilities if you encounter a regulated species. We'll have a brief introduction to the protected species associated with this project, and then we'll go over some general mitigation measures that need to be followed in order to prevent any incidents of take. We'd like to emphasize that this training is meant to supplement, not replace, the training information handouts that you should have received before watching this video. If you have not received a training pamphlet or booklet, please request one from your supervisor or on-site alluvian biologist. Let's start by discussing take. Take is a broadly defined term, and under the Federal Endangered Species Act, take means to harass, harm, pursue, hunt, shoot, wound, kill, capture, collect, or attempt to engage in any such conduct. Now, penalties for take will vary from species to species. However, any individual found to be committing unsanctioned take may be dealt hefty fines, and in some cases up to a year in jail time. These penalties are assessed for each instance of unsanctioned take. So what should you do if you encounter a regulated species on the project? The very first thing you should do is ensure that you do not touch or approach the animal. You should then immediately suspend work within the area the animal is found, especially if this work would result in take. Your next step is to notify your supervisor or the on-site biologist. If a biologist is not on site, please contact Gennaro Lockhart at the number listed on this slide and in your training materials. Unless otherwise noted in your materials, a 100-foot no-work buffer will need to be established around the species of concern until it either moves off the project site of its own volition or until permission is received from regulatory agencies to reduce or eliminate the no-work buffer. The next few slides will give you a brief overview of all of the listed and regulated species that occur on this project site. Smith's blue butterfly is a small butterfly measuring 1 inch in length that is endemic to the central coast of California. Males are bright blue on their dorsal side of their wings, while females are brown with bands of reddish orange. The undersides of the wings are gray, spotted with black, and also orange. This species is completely dependent on buckwheat plants that grow along the coast of California. The butterfly completes its entire life cycle on and around these plants. Larvae, after hatching from eggs deposited in the flower heads, consume the seeds within the flowers, then migrate to the duff beneath their host plant and pupate. Adults emerge and feed on the nectar from flower heads and continue the cycle over again. Eastern Pacific harbor seal is a subspecies of the world's most common seal. Adults may reach lengths of up to 6 feet long, and fur color is variable, ranging from light brown to gray and interspersed densely with dark spots. They inhabit a variety of coastal habitats in California and may haul out on both rocky shores and sandy beaches. Pacific harbor seals spend about half their time on land and half in water, and sometimes sleep underwater. In California, harbor seal pups are born between February and April and weigh about 20 to 24 pounds. A pup can swim at birth and will sometimes ride its mother's back when tired. And after about 4 weeks, pups are weaned. Adult females usually mate and give birth every year. Now, harbor seals are wary of human presence and will sometimes permanently abandon their haul-out sites and pups if approached too frequently. Steelhead is an anadromous Pacific salmon species, typically 19 to 33 inches in length. The breeding coloration of this species looks like that of coho salmon. However, steelhead males do not develop hook-shaped mouths as coho salmon do. Steelhead also look noticeably slimmer than other salmonids. Steelhead are anadromous, born in freshwater, migrating to the ocean, and returning as mature adults to their natal streams to spawn. Most breeding adults die shortly after spawning, although this is not true for 9% of the individuals, as they are repeat spawners. Eggs are deposited within gravel beds and streams with fast-flowing water, and depending on the water temperature, eggs hatch after 21 to 28 days. Young fry may remain in their natal streams or lakes before migrating to the ocean for about 3 years before they complete the majority of their growth. California condor is the largest wild bird species in North America. Adults can attain a wingspan of up to 9 feet in length and weigh up to 21 pounds. Condors are carrion feeders, using their keen eyesight rather than their sense of smell to detect small to medium-sized carcasses. In flight, these birds might be mistaken for the common turkey vulture. However, the white plumage at the leading edge of the condor's wings contrasts with the light gray plumage at the trailing end of most vultures' wings. Nests are constructed on cliff ledges or caves, usually with little to no nesting material, and eggs can take up to 2 months to incubate, with the nestlings taking another 6 months to fledge. A variety of bird species have been found nesting in or immediately adjacent to Caltrans right-of-ways. Nest sites are often placed in crevices, cavities, seams, or weep holes within bridges. Other nests are constructed on open vertical cement surfaces on bridges. The species that utilize man-made structures as nest sites tend to be more tolerant of urban conditions, otherwise known as increased noise, light, vibration, and even human presence. But they can nonetheless be sufficiently disturbed during construction or maintenance activities to cause nest abandonment or inattentiveness, which would result in the death or loss of eggs or juveniles. Incubation and brood rearing require approximately 4 to 5 weeks for smaller birds, but can take up to 12 weeks for larger birds like raptors. Any active bird nests found within or adjacent to the project area will require a mandatory 100-foot no-work buffer until it can be confirmed that the chicks have fledged and left the nest. Any raptor nests will require a 500-foot no-work buffer. Now we'll go over some of the key species protection measures for this project. These slides won't comprise an exhaustive list of necessary protective measures, but they should give you a good idea of what's expected of you. There are several general protective measures that need to be followed on this project. I'll go over these quickly, but you should review these measures in your training materials. First of all wildlife should be allowed to leave the job site unharmed. This includes any animals that don't carry state or federal protections. To prevent wildlife entrapment on the project, all excavations, and this includes trenches, holes, and pits, need to be covered at the end of each workday. If covering an excavation is not practical, earthen or wooden escape ramps need to be installed. Additionally, all litter, construction debris, and food-related waste generated on the site needs to be contained in sealed trash containers and removed from the construction area daily. Containing food waste is especially important, as these items tend to attract wildlife, which could ultimately cause project delays. During construction operations, stockpiling of construction materials, portable equipment, vehicles, and supplies needs to be restricted to the designated construction staging areas. The same goes for access roads into and out of the work area. Finally, restrict the disturbance of vegetation outside the work area to the minimum extent possible. Because Smith's blue butterflies are so dependent on buckwheat plants for their survival, the primary protective measure for this species will be to minimize any impact to vegetation. There are many buckwheat plants around the project, and you'll be able to tell them apart from other plants mainly from their small pom-pom-shaped flower heads. They tend to have many flower heads during the blooming season that range in color from red to pink to white. But in autumn, as the flowers go to seed, they transition to a brown and brick red color. Our primary concern for vegetation disturbance lies along this access road from the Pacific Coast Highway to the beach area below the bridge. Any vehicle that traverses this road must A. drive slowly, B. drive as close to the center of the pavement as possible, and C. preferably have a spotter if the vehicle is larger than a standard pickup truck. The edges of this road are clearly marked with flags and signage indicating that these vegetated areas contain Smith's blue butterfly habitat. At no time should any vehicle park or drive over the vegetated shoulder. Additionally, plants that lie outside of this access road have been marked with pink flagging. We'll finish up here with some important takeaways from this presentation. Perhaps the most important takeaway is remembering what your responsibilities are if you see a regulated species within the project site. Don't touch or approach regulated wildlife and immediately report encounters to your supervisor or the on-site biologist. Keep your training materials somewhere where you can readily access them. If an animal wanders onto the construction site and you're unsure whether it's a cause for concern, your booklets contain the necessary contact information and procedures to follow in order to protect yourself and your company. It is important to remember that you and your company are wholly responsible for following the measures in this training video and its associated training materials, as well as the permits and specifications for this project. So please revisit this video and your training materials as needed. This concludes the Biological Resources Information Program training video. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions about what's been covered in this presentation or your training materials, please direct them to your on-site alluvian biologist.